All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Construction Safety Leadership Alliance. I'm Bob Braun with the University of Texas Arlington OSHA Education Center. Hosting this event with the Construction Safety Leadership Alliance to commemorate fall protection and celebrate fall protection stand down this week. And, my slides didn't move. There we go. We have a number of people that are here hosting this, and you'll hear from many of them today. We have the OSHA represented here to give you an update on fall protection, and then we have some people from industry within the construction industry to talk about some specific fall prevention or fall protection issues, and I think give you a good rundown of fall protection. Fall protection is an issue, as you know, falls in construction are one of the major issues that we face as far as fatalities and serious injuries. And it's something that we wanted to spend some time this week in commemoration for the National Safety Stand Down to talk about falls. And this is being recorded in a live studio audience, so we're projecting out to several people out there as well. We will be recording this and then also make it available later on for use. So hopefully we'll get a lot of good lessons learned. Just some instructions and a welcome. I just welcome you on behalf of OSHA, University of Texas Arlington, and of course the Construction Safety Leadership Alliance to this session to talk about fall protection this week and hopefully give you some good lessons learned and some pointers that what we can do about fall protection. Just to start out with safety briefing, for those of you here in the room, the bathrooms, if you go out this door, take a right down the hall, and just past the elevators are the bathrooms. If there's any emergency, we have an annunciator system. It'll go off and it'll tell us what to do. Our nearest evacuation route is out this door, down the stairs, and out to the back fence down behind us. So we'll all meet down there. And we have a sign-in roster, and we'll take roll call down there. For you at home, whatever emergency you have to take care of. But please have a plan. All right, the next area I'd like to do is just kind of go over our rules of engagement. For those of you here in the room and those of you at home, please put your cell phones on vibrate or stun so they don't interrupt the sound system here. And we, as part of this meeting for the Construction Safety Alliance, we do not have any rank or title. Everybody's on an equal basis, so we want everybody to feel free to comment and ask questions. And speaking of questions, if you're online and you want to chat, if you right-click, you'll be able to get a chat, and it'll send your questions in, and we'll answer those questions. So just right-click on the screen. There'll be a little box in the corner. Right-click on that, and you can also take everybody off that's signed up. If you have a list there, you can eliminate them, and then you can hit chat, and you'll be able to ask questions or have a dialogue with us. We'll be glad to do that. So please feel free to engage in discussion both here and online. Be polite. Everybody has an opinion, and you know they always say there's no such thing as common sense, and that's because none of us have had the same experiences, the same knowledge, or the same training. So we all come from different backgrounds, and we all look at things just a little bit differently. So be polite, listen to other people's opinion. You'll get a chance to give yours, and then you can decide which route or which opinion you want to follow. So listen to others, what they have to say. I think we'll get a lot of valuable information today. And we look forward to sharing this with you. So this is our agenda for this morning and into the afternoon. What is the Construction Safety Leadership Alliance will be next up with Shane Morrow. And then we'll have an update from OSHA Area Director. And then some real life events from some people out in the construction industry that are going to tell us about some fall protection issues. And then we're going to talk a little bit about solutions, and then a little bit about the role that training plays. If you look at the fall protection requirements, training is one of the elements that they say is a necessary part of the solution. And then we'll talk about our next meeting that's going to be upcoming in June. We hold meetings here every month. So those of you who are in the area or have never been here before, please feel free to show up. We're here at UTA campus in Arlington, Texas. We do it every second Tuesday of the month. Second Tuesday? Yes. And we're here from 11:30 to 1, and we'd be glad to have you join us. And then we, at the end of this, have a time for talk. You get to air your opinions, ask your questions, and we'd be glad to hear from you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Honorable Mr. Shane Moore.
Hi, I'm Shane Morrow, President of the Construction Safety Leadership Alliance. A little bit about us. We are a volunteer group Our executive committee is made up of industry peers, contractors, subcontractors, just people within the industry that want to get plugged in and make a difference. We have an advisory committee that's made up a lot of our OSHA folks and partners, and also insurance companies and advisors and that nature. We started the concept of this group started a little over 4 years ago. And it took quite a lot of time to plan, decide what we wanted to look like, where we wanted to be. And fortunately, we found some partners with UT Arlington that would host our meetings here on site. And also the resources within OSHA have provided a great avenue for data research and just being able to provide real-time solutions and bringing up real-time problems that we could actually all talk about and collaborate on. So our group is completely volunteer. We meet once a month, and we encourage people to attend, get involved, and speak up. All of us have different industry issues within the industry. We have different experiences, and with that, all of you bring something to the table that we value. So I'm going to encourage you, if you're listening in today and you're in the Metroplex, please come and join one of our groups, our monthly meeting. Get involved. Without your involvement, we will not get better as an industry. That's our goal, is everybody has a voice, everybody has a vote, and we want to make sure that we bring real-time issues to the table. Let's talk about solutions, and let's share knowledge. Safety is not proprietary between any company. We're talking about the preservation of human life and health, and in that, we want to make sure that we've provided a great place, an avenue to share that knowledge. So with that being said, that's the Construction Safety Leadership Alliance. We meet once a month. We have an executive and advisory committee that meets every 2 weeks, talk about issues within the industry or what we're seeing as trends, and we try to provide solutions for that, or an open forum so that somebody might provide a solution to those problems. We look forward to having you. We think we're going to have a great presentation today. Stand down related to falls is absolutely important, and we need to absolutely pay attention and get involved to make a difference. With that, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, which is Jack Rector.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending the CSLA Fall Stand Down. Just to kind of start off with, as when we kind of look across the country, every year across the country we have more than 4,000 workers that actually die on the job. 50,000 more of those can actually be probably attributed to illnesses that they've received on the job, and actually millions more suffer non-fatal injuries on the job sites. If you can kind of see here in FY 2016, the fatality breakdown for Region 6, which includes Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. Last year across all industries we had 279 fatalities. If you can see over there, we had falls attributed to 70% of those, which was 25% of the total that we had last year in just Region 6. A little bit of breakdown on that by the areas or by the states and everything. You can kind of see here Arkansas had 4 falls, Louisiana 4, New Mexico 3, Oklahoma 3, and then there's Texas sitting at 26 fatalities due to falls. With a total, that was 69 fatalities just in construction in the region itself. And again, like I say, you can see there's 26 fatalities just in falls in Texas alone. When we look at the construction, actually the industry itself in 2016, just in Texas, again, you can kind of see that the falls were 26%, or 26 of those. Then you can kind of see struck by 13, caught between was 9. We actually had 2 drownings and then electrocutions and everything. That just kind of gives you a breakdown of the fatalities numbers that we actually had just in the state of Texas. This map right here, you can kind of look at it, and it kind of gives you a breakdown about where all the fatalities occurred throughout the Region 6, and you can kind of see how it just kind of spread out through all over through, and you can kind of see all the ones down in the state of Texas. And one of the things you can really look at is that Texas does lead the nation in the number of fatalities across the country. So far, 2017, which was actually starting on October 1st of last year, we've had 120 fatalities in the region. That's across all industries. Just in construction, we've had 40, and 13 of those are attributed to falls. The top 10 violations that OSHA has actually looked at, that we've actually cited out there, you can kind of see that fall protection is like the number one, and it's always sitting around at the number one spot. Here we actually have the other two, which is our scaffolding and our ladders, which actually attribute to also the falls, because basically everybody's working up on scaffolding. We have falls off of those. And ladders, we've had falls off those. And everybody that we talked about those in our March 2nd ladder symposium that we actually did around here. You can kind of see that those all stand out as far as the top 10 violations that we've cited in OSHA. Top 10 violations just in construction in FY16. Again, we have fall protection, we have scaffolding, and we have ladders as the top three. Those are in our construction industry. And down here, then what's the next one we have there? Number 4 is fall protection training. Then our last one, if you look down there, is number 10, is fall protection systems and criteria. So there, right there, you have 5 of the top 10 violations in construction that relate to falls. So why are we doing here? OSHA realized and seen in 2014 that the falls were their number one fatality across the nation. So in 2014, they developed the fall safety campaign. And that first year that we actually had that campaign, there was about 50,000 people that logged in and said that they participated in the fall stand down. Last year in 2016, I think we had more than 4 million people that attended. This year, we're hoping we're going to double that number. We want as many people to log in and spend 15 minutes, 30 minutes with everybody on their job site, just talk about falls, fall prevention, and what we can actually do to prevent it. You can kind of see here that in 2015, actually there was 937 fatalities in construction, and 357 of those were just construction workers. And that was actually attributed to falls, those 357. So what do we want you to do? We want you to kind of hold a safety stand down. And how do you do that? If you log into the website, our website, www.osha.gov, and log into the fall campaign, there's all kinds of resources in there. There's PowerPoints. There's all kinds of information there on actually how to hold the stand down. All we're wanting you to do is spend about 15 to 30 minutes, talk to all your employees on the job site, and do that stand down. Talk about the fatalities that have been going on. In order to help you, there's also a mobile app that's out there. This is new for this year. If you want to go ahead and log into that, it's a free app. You can download that. That has all the same information in it that you can use to hold your stand down. It has photos in there. You can download your photos of your stand down. And that's the stuff we want to see. We want you to actually participate. We want everybody to participate in the stand down. There's also a NIOSH ladder app that's out there. It's free. Again, you can download this app, and what this does is it actually gives you an angle measuring device to make sure that your ladders are set up at the proper angle. It gives you a selection tool that you can use to make sure you're selecting the proper ladder for the type of job that you're doing, an inspection tool, and then a proper use. Then it also gives you an accessories tool. But it's one of those, I think it's an outstanding app to actually use for ladder safety. In 2015, on January 1st, OSHA started its new reporting requirements. Still, basically, if a fatality has to be reported within 8 hours to OSHA. All work-related inpatient hospitalizations of one employee, amputation or loss of an eye has to be reported to OSHA within 24 hours. And since we actually started those new reporting requirements, our 2-year findings you can kind of see here show that there was 21,343 that was actually reported to us. The thing that kind of gets me is there was 5,338 amputations in the last 2 years. So that kind of tells you there's over 2,500 amputations every year in this country. That relates to that there's at least 30 workers that are actually injured every day on the job site. Most of the reporting that actually employers report to us as one of as far as a fatality, a loss of an eye, amputation, or hospitalization, In 62% of those cases, OSHA has actually turned that over to the employer to actually do the investigation and report back to us on what they've actually done to, that actually related to that incident and what they've done to correct that and going forward and make sure that we're abating the hazard. Some of the OSHA initiatives that we're actually putting out there lately. The first one we actually have is a Safe and Sound. This is our first year for actually doing this. This will actually run through June 12th through the 18th, and what we're actually looking for employers to do and what we found is that the safety and health programs the employers have out there, a lot of them are outdated. So when we go out to a job site and do an inspection, one of the first things we're going to start asking for is your safety and health program. And when we pull that down, things that we're finding out these are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years outdated, or that they have nothing to do with the work that you're actually doing out there. So what OSHA is asking you to do during that week is pull your safety and health program down off the shelf, go through it, and make sure that actually what you're actually doing out there today is in your safety and health program. When you look at your safety and health programs, you can kind of see here what the breakdown of what this is. It decreases your overhead cost, decreases, like I say, it's all about money. Everybody likes about the money. Decreased in the worker complaints or claims, 88% of those. So like I say, what we're wanting you to do is just actually look at your safety and health program, pull it off the shelf, dust it off, and look at it. Part of that is actually your recommended practices for safety and health programs. OSHA has updated this one this year, and actually what they've done is actually added the number 7 down there, which is communication and coordination for host employers, contractors, and staffing agencies. What OSHA has actually been finding on the job site is temporary workers are not treated as equally as the regular workers on the job site or your employees. So what ends up happening is the employer is actually going to a staffing agency. They get 5 or 6 staffing employees to come out to their job site and have them do the job that they don't want their employees to do. So what OSHA is saying that it's a shared control over those employees, shared responsibility for the worker. So basically what ends up happening, whatever you're actually having those employers do, you need to make sure you're treating them just like your employee. You need to provide them training, PPE, and everything else that goes along with that. Our heat illness campaign. You can see here 2014 we had 18 workers died from heat exposure, and there's been 144 since 2011, and that number has actually increased because again that number was in the last numbers we have was in 2014. More than 2,660 workers were injured from heat-related illnesses, and 14,410 since 2011. Basically what we're actually saying is just acclimate. Water, rest, and shade. When it comes out to the summertime and everything like that, just make sure that you're actually looking out for your employees. When the temperature starts getting up there, making sure we're taking care of them. And when you know there's an app for that also. So there's another app that's free. You can download that. It's the OSHA Heat Safety Tool. When you download that, basically what it's going to do is actually, once you're in that, it'll give you the outside temperature where you're at. It'll give you your humidity. And then what it's going to do is going to calculate that and give you your heat index. And inside the heat index, it'll kind of give you your risk level, and you can go select that, and it'll tell you exactly what you need to do to protect your employees out there. Again, it's a very good app. If you have not signed up for Quick Takes, I recommend you sign up for it. More than 170,000 people currently take it. It comes out bi-weekly. And basically what it is just kind of talks to, it gives you all the latest news that OSHA is coming out with OSHA, any new of our campaigns such as the fall protection campaign. It would give you all that information, give you the links and everything like that. So again, if you haven't not signed up for it, please go ahead and do. And that's it. With that, I'm going to turn it over and we're going to talk about some real life fatalities that we've actually had on the job site.
Good morning. My name is Jacob Pete. I'm a safety manager in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it's my pleasure today to introduce our 3 speakers to you. First, I'd like to start off with a quote. We learn wisdom 3 ways. First, by reflection, which is most noble. Second, by imitation, which is most easy, right? And third, by experience, which is most bitter. Our next three speakers will be speaking to us in regards to experience that they have. Together, they account for nearly half a century of experience in health and safety. Mr. Michael Barefoot is the Vice President of the CSLA currently. He is a construction manager, or a safety manager for a heavy civil contractor here in the area. He has a great affinity for all things leadership and safety. So it has to do with leadership or safety and leadership. He tends to go towards that quite a bit. Raimundo Reyes is also one of our next guest speakers. He'll be second. He is a superintendent over a structures crew in heavy civil and construction. He's going to share with us some experiences he's had as a superintendent and give us kind of another perspective on some of these experiences. And third is Kyle Duke. Mr. Duke is a senior loss control consultant for an insurance company here in DFW. He has 18 years experience prior to his current role as a health and safety manager and risk manager. So please join me in welcoming them here today. Mr. Barefoot, you are first.
Thank you, Jacob. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you here in person and online for taking time out from your busy day to be part of this program. It's a reflection on our attitudes, our commitment to employee safety. And my topic today, my thought is choices. We all have choices we make. And those choices, whether good or bad, are formed on things we've experienced in life, on peer pressure or peer groups, for whether it's formal or informal training. And I'd like to say formal training being OSHA 10, OSHA 30s. We'll say fall protection, competent person training. I'd even like to go out on a limb and say Monday morning safety meetings and JHAs, if done correctly, can be part of formal training as well. And informal training obviously would be foremen, mentors, and leaders for crews helping guide us in the right direction to do what we need to do to have that same opportunity as everyone else to go home to our families. And so with all these positive influences in our life, sometimes we still make the wrong decisions or the wrong choices. And that's where my story begins. As one of my employees who had been through years of training, both formal and informal, on the job site doing heavy highway work for a very long time, chose or made a series of bad choices that put him in a very bad position. And so with that, as he was going on an aerial lift up to a form work, cap form work, he was talking with the aerial lift operator, and the operator had warned him up front, hey, there's some false work that hasn't been pinned or supported underneath. Also, there's some holes that are open, so you need to stay tied off. And so his first choice when he got up there was to take his body harness and lanyard off and leave it on the work platform. The second choice was, instead of using an extension ladder to access the lower level of this form work, he chose to jump. So he jumped into the form, and when he landed inside the formwork, he slipped and fell 20 feet to the ground below. He didn't pass, but he suffered a severe injury that's disabled him to this day. And it's not only him that paid the price for this injury. His wife, his children, his mother and father, his other family members, his friends, his neighbors, they all suffered too, because he at one time had a very positive influence in their life, but with this severe injury, his life changed and so did theirs. And so did the crews on the job site. The job site, the personality changed on the job site because of this injury. And to this day, I still look at that and wonder if there was anything more I could have done as a safety manager on this project to change his outcome. I second guess myself now because of what occurred years ago. And I don't want that for you. I don't even want that for him. This man is still paralyzed from the waist down, and he'll never get better. That's his lot in life. From that day forward, that's where he's at. You know, and I've had a great friend of mine tell me that, you know, one person can make a difference in construction, and it's easy. You lead by example. You do the right things without anybody telling you what to do. You mentor and train and coach your employees and help get them to the next level. Leadership is something that continuously grows, and we need to help our employees grow on the job site daily. It's not a weekly or a monthly issue. It's an hour by hour, minute by minute, growth that takes place. Through positive reinforcement or discipline, we help our people grow. It's important that we get our hands around this and move forward. We are that one drop in a clear pond. We make a difference in 3 or 4 people's lives. They in turn make a difference in 3 or 4 other people's lives. And the ripple effect grows and grows until it's not just a crew culture that changes, not just a job site culture that changes, it's a corporate culture that changes. And hopefully it turns into a community change where we have that big an impact on the community where people realize the importance of not only their personal safety, but the safety of people around them. There's no shame in reminding somebody to wear a body harness and lanyard. There's no shame in reminding somebody you need to wear your glasses. Your eyes are important. You're only blessed with 2. Let's keep both working. So I'm asking you, please, let's go out and make a difference. Let's keep our people safe and injury-free so that they can go home, have the same opportunity to go home each and every night to spend quality time with their families. I just want to thank you. Have a great day.
Hi, thank you all of you for being here. My name is Raimundo Rodriguez. I've been in the construction industry for a little over 20 years. I've been superintendent for the last 5 years. I'm here to share a positive story of how important it is to be working safely when you are 6 feet or more above the ground. We had a project in Chisholm Trail several years ago. We had one guy that fell off the bridge. Because of all the training we had in place, like monthly training, weekly meetings, daily AHAs, all that helps. So when this guy fell off, he went home that day. No injuries, no hurt. That day, we all showed up at 7 o'clock like as normal to work. We reviewed the AHA, talk about all the hazards. We start to work. We were setting precast panels on top of the beams. So this guy, around 10, 11 o'clock, he fell. It took us like 3 minutes to rescue him. No injuries, no hurt. He went home that day. He was a little bit scared, obviously, but he came back the next day to work. All we had to do is just buy him another brand new harness. That's it. So it's really important to be working safe up there. And the question is, who's responsible for the safety? It's you. You are the responsible for safety. So that's what I got. Thank you.
I believe it's good afternoon. My name's Kyle Duke. I'm with Willis Towers Watson. I came from the contracting side, and I'm in a position to deal with and be in the presence of a lot of different companies in a lot of different scenarios, construction, manufacturing, and everything in between. The topic we've got today doesn't just revolve around construction in and of itself. It's an issue everywhere. And the benefit I have coming from the contracting side into the role that I have now is that I get to share all of the situations, all of the brain power that we have in this room and then all over the country that is beneficial for everyone when it comes to safety, when it comes to risk. My real circumstance when I was on the contracting side was a few years ago with a construction finishing or concrete finishing crew within a pipeline company. We were finishing up a pump station and a lift station to where they were forming up, pour in place, forming up the pump station and lift station itself. The rebar at the top was looped over to get ready to have a cap put on it. Previous to that, we had training, fall protection training for this, because the majority of these concrete crews within this company did not have a lot of experience with fall protection issues, because most of their finish out were in rows, were covering up previous excavations, so this wasn't something that they necessarily were accustomed to. So we did the training in place, everything looked well. A week later, maybe a few more days than that, I get a call. The leader, the foreman of the group, had fell 22 feet on the sub base, the concrete base of this station itself. Now, I drive from here all the way down to South Texas, and assuming the worst, because 20 feet when you hit concrete is not the most, greatest of scenarios of you thinking someone's going to survive. Like the other two gentlemen and what Mr. Barefoot talked about, we got lucky. The gentleman didn't peril, and how he didn't is just an act of the good Lord. That's all I can say. The issue with it is the whole way down, and this is similar to what Mr. Barefoot talked about. I asked, what did we do? What did we not do? Did we actually give them the tools that they needed to be able to do the work they needed to do efficiently but safely? I get to the hospital. I got down there before his family could get there. I stayed with the man for 2.5 days in the emergency room. And at that time, I won't age myself at this point, but at that time, a grown man sat in there with another grown man and was about in tears, because the only thing he had to say, lying in the bed, not sure of what his injuries were going to be, not sure of what the outcome was going to be, is he leaned over as best he could and said it was my fault. That bothered me so much, because he at least had the honor in himself to say that, but that's not right. Because one person may make a mistake, but the process in and of itself is something that we went back and looked at. Now, in this case, it was great that the individual didn't pass away. He did have complications, but very minimal. So it was a miracle on his part. But what we were able to do is find out, and I want you guys to think about my portion of this, is we thought critically about what we didn't do. Because of what he said to me, it was my fault. How am I going to blame him for that? How am I going to say, okay, that's good, let's wrap it up? What we ended up finding was we all deal with a lot of things each day, and we train as much as we can, and we try to figure out the tasks as best we can. But there's always something that could probably be looked at. And what I decided and revamped the group in my department and even in the leadership department was, we need to think critically. After we go over the task, how do you think critically about something that may come up? Because we look at a lot of things, but once you get in there to doing it, can you say, have I done everything? Have I done everything that I know I can do to perform this task? Now, am I going to say it's perfect? No. But if we can think critically, then we've done everything we can do for the people that are around us. And that was my payback to him. Every time he came back, when he came back on a job, I wanted to make sure that we were doing that. I wanted to learn from them. I wanted to understand what they went through. Because a lot of times in safety, we may not understand what the operations guys are actually doing. It allowed me to immerse myself, even though I came from the operations side, so deep that it gave me a greater understanding of how we need to help this entire industry. And those kind of experience I can't replace. And if there's anything else I can do for anybody because of that, I'm more than willing to do it because of that one incident. That incident will stay with me because if a man said it was my fault, and I wasn't going to let him do it. Wasn't going to let him do that because everybody else had their play and could have done something differently. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Dabbs, and I am on the executive committee with the CSLA, and I work for TD Industries. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about, what can we do? What can we do as an industry? What can we do as safety professionals and leaders on job sites? Injuries and incidents are really our call to action, and they're a clear indication of inefficient operation. And when these are occurring, when you have an incident or an injury occur, you've got the perfect system designed to allow that event to take place. Don't miss your opportunity to capture the details from that incident, to learn that lesson, to improve. It's a valuable opportunity to improve, but so often we miss that true chance to make change appropriately. Investigate these injuries and incidents in teams. Investigate with multiple or diverse sets of individuals from different roles on the job site or facility where the incident occurred. And then look much deeper than what that initial cause was. You'll find the initial cause. You may jump on that first easy to find opportunity, but go look at your contributing factors, and then take each contributing factor and account for those individually. Assign action items based on each individual contributing factor, and follow those through, measure those into completion, just to make sure you have a true loop or circle to take you from incident occurrence through lesson learned, distribution, and actual prevention. And you will be able to improve. It's so much about safety is just improving processes. Be solution minded, be focused on improving every single day. Also, we have the ability in this room and on this webinar to make the change. Far too often it's the assumptions are made of, some contractor association is going to help us with that, or a peer group association, or we can lean on our insurance safety resources, which all of these are great opportunities and resources to reach out to, but be that voice, be that individual and that company that demands excellence, that demands to go beyond mere compliance and actually get to safety excellence. Pursue it relentlessly, and you may achieve it. I got off track there. Remember, pre-planning is a crucial step of this as well. But far too often with incidents and trying to learn a lesson from it and try to improve, it's seen as kind of the perfect solution, or the one thing that I see attributed back. This incident occurred, well, the JHA wasn't adequate, or the pre-planning was inadequate. But remember, that's just one step inside of your safety systems, and it doesn't really account for omissions, lack of education, or just an oversight by the individual who's completing them. That JHA, that pre-task tool, is just as good as the individual who's performing that plan. Compile your systems, compile your controls. Think of each individual task or plan or activity throughout the day as more of a hazard risk assessment opportunity. Take that hazard, break it down into those steps like we talk about in normal JHA planning, but then layer your controls and add multiple numbers of layers, and it should help you improve and move towards safety excellence. But remember, the call to actions for us and the opportunity to improve is us, and we need to be the driving force for that. So, thank you.
But one of the things I did want to share, since everybody was kind of talking about some stories that they had on the job sites and about these individuals, a lot of them, which was thankfully that they survived. But one I did want to talk about was, this is the fatality that we had actually last year. This was on a Saturday. I was received a call that we actually had a fatality that occurred through our OSHA referral line. So I kind of took a little bit of information, and of course, it was just about an employee that fell off of a steel erection site. So we actually went out to the site. Everybody was gone. Of course, it was like I said again, it was a Saturday. So after the fatality, everybody packed up and left. So I sent a compliance officer out there on Monday. And when they went out there on Monday, then we started kind of hearing what actually had taken place. Basically what you had was an employee that was working up on a steel erection site 35 feet in the air, and what they were doing was laying the steel decking. As they were laying the steel decking, one of the employees picks up a sheet, takes it over, and he lays it down. They weren't attaching it as they went along, so he went back to go grab another piece. As he grabbed that one, he started bringing that one back. And as he started walking back with that one, he kicked a piece of it that was on the ground, which actually moved it out about 2 foot. Down he went. 35 feet to the concrete. The biggest thing that came out of this whole thing was when the compliance officer came back and started talking to me about it was, in which I could not believe that this employee that was on the job site was 16 years old. So how do you go back to the family and tell this mother, this father, that their son is not going to come home? Why was that employee on the job site to begin with? Well, when we started doing some actually background work on it and everything like that, there was no employee records to be found. So this was just a person that came to the job site, needed a job, and they put him up there working, didn't give him any type of training, didn't provide him the tools that was necessary for him to survive up there on the job. So I just kind of wanted to let you know that, because that was one of those that, you have those ones that you get all the time that just kind of like sticks with you, and that's kind of like one of those, because that's, like I say, that's a child. That's one of your kids that's out there. We need to actually do a better job and make sure we're protecting our guys out there. Thank you.
I think we've heard some compelling stories and experiences, and I think it brings home the things that we really need to be doing. And as part of the solution, one of those is training, but we talked already and had some comments on the planning and the providing the proper equipment. So all those are really important steps, using the JSAs, the meetings. How do we get people in the right frame of mind and aware of what all the hazards are on the job? We need to plan ahead and make sure that we're in that planning and pre-planning stage. How can we even avoid the hazards of falls in our pre-planning? What can we do early on as we do, our design and our planning for the work to even, get out of the problem of having fall hazards? So all those things are pre-planning and things that we can take. We don't always catch everything, so we need to have and we heard the story about the people using the proper equipment and being saved, and thank you for sharing that. So there are success stories out there, and probably we don't hear enough of those, but by providing the right equipment and with that, the right training, that those people are able to survive those kind of incidents and maybe don't even become a story. But I'm glad we shared that kind of experience today. So I want to talk to you a little about training. I mean, that's the business that we are in at the OSHA Education Center. But we have a lot of problems with falls, and training, I think, as we already mentioned, the OSHA 10-hour and OSHA 30-hour are key components, I think, to be able to provide training. And we focus on the falls as the number one in that process. We have to spend a minimum amount of time, at least over an hour and 15 minutes is required because it's so important. And I think training is a key to that. And those are two options you have to do, is the 10-hour and 30-hour. But the weekly meetings, the daily meetings, anything you can do is a training experience. And as we talked about, you set the examples, just doing the right thing each and every day, not taking a shortcut. As soon as you take that shortcut, people see that, oh, they got away with that. Because, how many times have you gotten away with those shortcuts, never had an issue? It's the one that doesn't get away that gets all the attention. And how many of those times does that reoccur over and over again before we get a fatality or a serious injury? So, we need the best practices, and a lot of that comes out of sharing those. What are the hazards? What are the precautions? What is the proper equipment? Those are some ways to share that. On our side, as far as an OSHA Ed Center, what we do is provide some of the training on the basic requirements. We have OSHA 7405, the fall hazard awareness program that we put on, and we did several of those for free this week. Hopefully some of your people were able to take advantage of those. We do that every year during this stand down. We provide free training just to get the people aware of what the hazards are and what the right equipment is and what the proper procedures are. And then we have our regular OSHA 3115, which is our fall protection course. It's a 26-hour course that we provide. It's an OSHA instruction course that teaches people what the requirements are and what the hazards are. And then we have our competent person course for fall protection. It's a 101. We go into a lot more detail on additional standards like the ANSI standards and the requirements for fall protection programs and what the duties are of a competent person in preventing those falls from occurring on a work site. And then we have the annual refresher that we do. So if you go through that process, you're supposed to go through a refresher. We do that as well. So we just kind of refresh those issues and any changes we have. So this is some of the formal training that we have on fall protection that is available, and not just with us, but any OSHA Education Center. We have 3 of them here in the region, and we'd be glad to help you out. We do it by open enrollment. We do them all over Region 6. We train probably in the neighborhood of 9,000 to 10,000 people a year on safety issues, and we're everywhere. And I think we cover the state pretty well between the 3 ed centers, and we're be able to do it on contract as well. So we'd be able to come and help you out if you have a large need. So with that, I'm just going to turn over to Shane Morrow to take us down the road.
So today you've heard several stories about accidents that have occurred, and one of them was where an individual was wearing fall protection and was saved. Not certain exactly if you've had the experience of investigating a fatality. I can try to paint you a picture of what that's like. I've done that a couple times myself, and I'm certain there's other people that have done that more. And I'm certain there's other people in the room that have experienced either loss on the job site or know someone that has lost their life on the job site or been seriously injured. All of that affects every one of us in the industry. It drives the rates up. We got a focus from OSHA, which is understandable. The other side of that, though, is let's look at what it does to family. Investigated a fatality about 4 years ago, and the family was out of the United States, so the individual that was deceased had no one here to come immediately. He had another individual that was injured, seriously injured, in the hospital in ICU. No family there to come immediately. We had to fly the family in to see the individual so that mother could bury her son. In the investigation on the job site, we started looking into why this accident occurred. Sitting around the conference table, we've got the project team there, we've got the president of the company there for the region, and we start digging into how this incident occurred. And we asked the question, why did we do a certain thing? Well, I'm looking to my right, and this guy that's to my right is a senior project manager. He's also a very good friend of mine, and he starts to break down. And in the process of it, you start to realize the amount of emotion that is surrounds a fatality like that. There's a couple things that happen. Number one, they felt like they let the company down. They felt like they let the individual down. They let that family down, and they let their coworkers down. So he's breaking down. We pan to the general superintendent, and he does the same. It's a tough place to be. It's absolutely not a place you want to be in the room with. Tension's pretty high, and the feeling of remorse is unescapable. Looking to the job site team, we had to remove the senior superintendent or the general superintendent and the senior project manager because at an emotional and a mental level, they needed a reset to go somewhere else and actually start over, try to erase that or at least get past it. It's extremely difficult to do that. We did that. The senior project manager and the superintendent both left the company. The senior project manager would refuse to work for a general contractor again because in the CM or general contractor role, everything that happens on the job site is under your control and your fault if it goes wrong and your fault if it goes right. And he wanted to remove himself from that situation, so he refused to work for a general contractor anymore, and he went to work for a subcontractor that does nothing related to fall protection, dealing with vehicles, any of that. And it changed his life drastically. The superintendent left the company and left the state, actually went to work for another contractor. He's back in the business, but at the same time, it was a drastic shock to their lives. And then also just how the project team responded. There was always a black cloud over that project team and that project after that happened. Everybody relates what happens to remember the fatality. I don't know if you understand that, but that's exactly what happens. Now, the other side of that is you've got a family that lost a loved one. And for me, I've got kids, and I've got a lot of people that I care deeply about, and making a decision on the job site that's going to cut my time short and leave them without me there to support is a decision I don't want to make. That's why I try to do the right things most of the time. And I'm going to encourage you that if you're one of those people that know the difference between right and wrong, I'm going to encourage you to step up, make the right decisions, because people that are around you are experiencing what you're providing, right? Either it's a negative influence on safety or it's positive. I'm going to encourage you to stand up, ask a question. Leadership doesn't come from position, it comes from anyone willing to stand up and do the right thing. And sometimes that leadership role is just asking a question: is this right? Have we prepared? Do we know what the worst thing that can come would be? Just the other day, investigated a fall. An individual fell 35 feet. 2 individuals adjusted a scaffold, had no proper training whatsoever, and 1 individual fell 35 feet. Lived, but only by the grace of God. It wasn't by professional experience or by stepping up and doing the right thing. Had a harness on, didn't tie off. The other individual had a harness on, tied off. It's a choice. The machismo that comes with working in the industry sometimes is a plague for us. You have to understand that whenever something like that happens, and it's very negative, it affects everybody at home, everybody at work. And it's very, very hard to get over. A lot of times we have to remove the project teams, install new team to overcome that, because there's a black cloud or a plague over the job site from that point forward. Certainly at home, you can't bring that person back, and there's a void in that family's life, and we want to make sure you understand that. And that's the reason why we do this. We're not talking today about regulations. Jack presented on statistics. We chose today to talk about real life situations, and the reason for that is this. All the rules in the world are not going to get you to understand why this is all important. We wanted to share real life situations, real life happenings, so that you can understand, hopefully get a little bit of an idea, a little bit better of an idea than maybe what you had before, to understand what it's like to either have your family suffer your loss or to lose someone that you know. And really that's where it's at. The regulations are written because somebody, over a period of time, some bad decisions were made related to a certain circumstance. So a regulation was created to hopefully prevent that reoccurrence. As construction workers, leaders, managers, whatever, it's on us to understand why those regulations were created and put the effort in place to eliminate those incidents from happening in the future. We're all subject to our own personal decisions, and the problem with human behavior is this: if I've worked not tied off 10 times in a row, 10 times in a row, my mind tells me that it's okay. Until I experience a negative impact like a fall, my brain doesn't tell me it's dangerous anymore, because I've actually become numb to the exposure because I've done it repeatedly. What we're trying to do today is get you to understand that it only takes a second to change your life or change your family's life, change your work family's life. We're at work more times than we're at home most of the time. This has become family, and they experience loss whenever you're gone too. So I just want to make sure you understand that, and you think about that before you make those decisions. And again, if you can, ask the questions. Ask the question: have we prepared for this, or have we considered what's the worst thing that can come from my action or inaction related to safety? So today I want to talk to you a little bit about our next meeting. Next month we're meeting at the Sweet Center here at UT Arlington. We're not moving here. We're not meeting in this location. We're meeting at the Sweet Center. There's the address, 406 Summit Avenue. Again, we meet every month, the third Tuesday of every month. It's 11:30 to 1 o'clock. Typically there's a short presentation. Maybe it's a topic that we're all struggling with. And then there's a breakout session or breakout sessions to talk about the topic, your experience, what we can do as an industry to get better at whatever that topic is. It's absolutely a great place to work. It's not here to come to listen to somebody speak. It's absolutely about getting involved and getting engaged and providing that insight that you have that's unique to your experiences. So I just want to promote that and make sure that you're here. If you have time, we'd love to have you. We have a session right now. It's called 10 Minutes to Talk. If anybody has any questions or you have a incident that you'd like to talk about, you're more than welcome to do that at this time. Anyone in the group? Anyone have any questions related to fall protection? Accidents? Anything of that nature? Right there.
How many total falls happened last year, you know, recorded?
How many falls? The question is, how many total falls have been recorded last year, 2016? Is that specific to DFW?
Let's say Region 6.
For Region 6, do y'all have that data?
Just in construction, 26, or across everything that's recorded. 26.
Well, 26 in construction, I think there was,
So there's only 26 falls total out of all the insurance? How many total falls?
that data we don't have. Because that would have to be, we'd have to go back through all these tracing, trying to determine which ones just was related to it. That specific standard. We don't actually keep data on which ones actually fall.
I guess that would be my next question. That would be, if you have a total number, how many actually resulted in fatalities? Obviously, you know, but
Yes.
how many are not? They just happen and nothing's said.
Well, I think that number's quite significant. I can tell you, just as a safety manager, used to work on a job site, or had a job site in Dallas, Fort Worth, we had we've always required fall protection, and had an individual that was tied off. He was working up on the forming floors, probably about the 18th floor, and he trips and falls. He doesn't fall off the formwork, but he falls outside the guardrails because he's on the leading edge. They've not put the guardrails in place yet. So they're filling in the formwork area and going to start putting on the guardrails, and then, of course, the edge form and all that. He falls, lands on the edge of the formwork, but his lanyard, it didn't deploy, it just got taut and kept him on the formwork. And I will tell you that his face showed the anxiety level of being out there on the edge, realizing that all you have to do is trip and things change. So yeah, those are probably not published or communicated very well. We had a guy that was on that same job. We had a guy that was working in an elevator shaft, and the plan at that time was to take an extension ladder, set it up, and extend it into the elevator shaft, tie off. But whenever they extend into the elevator shaft, they're supposed to secure the ladder, right? So he missed this one step, but what he did do was he did put his harness on, he did tie off. They had vertical rope grabs in there with cable, and he ascends the ladder, and when he gets about halfway across the ladder rolls, and it turns like this, and he's on the 10th floor, and he drops inside the elevator shaft, and he is caught by his fall protection. Well, I can tell you this one group of people were very difficult to push towards providing safety, or not providing, just doing it. Understanding why it's important, and then actually doing it. I can tell you that after that individual fell and they pulled him back out of the elevator shaft, he was a 100% believer and coach and instructor, and nobody was getting in the shaft until he made his inspections complete. And he was like an apprentice. Wasn't like a journeyman. Wasn't like some guy with 10 or 15 years of experience. He just had that one occurrence, and he got religion immediately. Understood why it was important. So anybody else? Any questions? Any comments?
I just want to kind of follow up on that, though. Unless it's actually reported to us, we're not going to know about it. Just like what kind of Shane said, if that person fell and then nothing happened to him. If that person fell and nothing happened to him, then basically nobody's like I say, we're not going to find out about it. The thing about it is we do have, with the new reporting system, new reporting requirements. We do have a lot of those that are reported to us, but then we're going to go out and do inspections on those. And again, whenever we run the data, it depends on how we run that. Normally, it's just going to be by fatalities for falls. Unless we actually specifically decide we're going to run one that actually has that related to a fall hazard itself for a citation that was issued or anything. And that's going to come to what is the most cited standards out there right now what OSHA has, which is the top one is fall protection. One thing I can say is there are a lot of those that we do find out about maybe later down the road that there could have been a fatality, could have been an injury on the job site, and then it's later reported to us maybe 2-3 months down the road. And, they try to get away with it, but sooner or later somebody's going to start asking, especially the family. The family's going to start asking us about, well, hey, my husband fell on the job site on this date, what are you guys doing about it? And we're going to sit there and start looking back, and we're going to say, well, we never knew about it. And so in those cases, then that's going to be the reporting requirements. Anybody else got any questions?
I have one that kind of happened to me recently. At a laydown yard, we placed connexes fairly close to each other, then build an awning between the two of them for like a rain shelter or something, or a sun shelter. And I'm just checking on my approach. What can we do to kind of help promote fall protection in a situation like that where we don't have any sky hooks or anchor points just kind of handy when they're building the awning? And they were rolling out some felt paper and doing some asphalt shingles. And I was kind of at a loss, other than just, you got to get down and we have to come up with some game plan. That wasn't a very good game plan on my part. But I was wondering, is there something or some way, I didn't have an aerial lift or anything out there to kind of help augment the process?
So you just talked about like it was over 6 feet up
Yes,
off the ground. Then, yeah, you're going to have to sit there and make a determination what it is that they actually need out there. Whether you need to put some type of, a netting system out there to catch them if they fall, or if maybe the fall protection that you provide them is more just keeping them from the edge of it to begin with. In other words, not use it as fall protection, but just as fall prevention. Yes, sir.
If we have time, I'd like to tell a little story.
Sure.
A couple of weeks ago, on my way home, I passed by a
Come on up. Come on up.
Join the group.
This has got a positive outcome, but on my way home, I need to stop in Kroger and get some milk and cereal or whatever. And I go in there, and there's a guy up in a man lift painting the Strips shopping center. No harness, no. So I holler at him. He doesn't understand. I start taking pictures, and he gets a little worried. And I say, "Where's your boss? Where's your boss?" And he's evidently doesn't speak English. So I walk down, and there's a guy on a ladder, and he's painting. And I go down, and I say, "Are you the boss?" And he said, "No, he's around here somewhere." And I said, "Well, do you know where he is?" And he said, "No, not right now." So I went to look for a truck where I could take pictures. And of course, there wasn't any company name or anything on the truck, but there was ladders. It was obviously the painter truck. So I started taking pictures of the license plate, and this young guy comes running up. "What are you taking a picture of my truck for?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to turn it into OSHA because you've got a guy up there working without any fall protection." And he said, "Well, you need to call my boss." And I said, "No, you need to call your boss, and you need to get that guy down." So he walked over, he told the guy to come down, and I said, "I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to get a few groceries, and I'm going to come back. And if I see him up there again without fall protection, I'm going to call OSHA." He said, "You mean he needs a harness?" And I said, "Yeah, he needs a harness and a lanyard and be tied off." I come back out, the guy is up there in the man lift with a tied off. So they had the harness and the lanyard on the job site, and they weren't wearing it. So I told the young guy, I said, "That's great." He said, "I come by here, come home for work every day. I'm going to come by tomorrow and make sure he's still doing it." I came back the next day, and I didn't need to go to the store. I just drove through the parking lot to find him. There were 2 guys in the man lift, both with harnesses and both with lanterns. So I kind of felt good, but when you start getting your phone out and you say you're going to call OSHA, it seems to have some impact. So
Appreciate that. And we see that more out there than what you think, because about any time we stop by, because nobody's tied off, first thing is we start asking about it, and it's in the truck. And so they refuse to wear it while it's up there.
You know, with OSHA, we hear all the bad things that we hear all the time about fatalities and those sort of things. But everybody in this room, we have the experience. A lot of people have been around here for a long time. We should share some of those success stories. When the guy's wearing his fall protection and he do fall and he was saved. We need to hear more about those things also. Like I tell you, it happens more frequently than we think. But you have to capture that information. And what that does is it tells us the positive things why we should be wearing it. You know, fatalities occurred, we'll hear that all the time. But how many times your work site, the guy was doing the right thing and he saved his life? We need to start doing those sort of things. It's important. I can tell you that I saw actually a water tower in Galveston, 2 individuals in it. It failed, mechanical failure. Those guys were actually tied off doing the right thing, became a success story. They were tied off doing all the things they supposed to. Mechanical failure, the system failed, and they were tied off. So we need to talk about positive things also. We could always talk about all the things we're going to cite you for and those things, OSHA, but let's not talk about that part of it sometimes. What are you doing to help your employees and make sure they're doing it? And when they do it right, we need to actually promote those things. And promote it with OSHA. Let us know. It's important. It's important. Because when fatality is too late, we already can do the inspection, those sort of things. But if you go out and actually talk about the good things, how you're doing all those great things, that really helps. Because we're going to do inspections. We're going to do that part of it. Let's talk about all the good things these guys are doing, and let's promote those things. I think that's why we're here also, for this alliance. And this is important to us. And we'll talk more about that, why that is important to us. Because I can tell you, I personally investigated over 98 fatalities as a compliance officer. And I can tell you the war stories about those sort of things. But here we have all the experts sitting right here in this room and across the camera. What is it we're going to do to make sure that when Jack comes back next time and start about statistics, that changes? That's hopefully when we come back next time that more people line up here and talk about more success stories from your organization. I think that's more important. That's prevalent. That's why we're here as part of this alliance of what we're doing with OSHA. You have 2 area directors, Fort Worth, and you have Dallas area office. We're here. We have the regional office. We're here to help you. We have Mr. Braun with all the training resources. We have Morrow with his company and all the things that we can do. With everybody in here, I think we can make a difference. But it starts now with this new alliance and what we do and what we're supposed to be doing. It's too late when I do an inspection at that point in time. So let's do all the things we're supposed to do up front, and I think it will make a big difference. And I hopefully, you know, as new director of the Dallas area office, hopefully the slides that Jack showed you, that we see a big dent in the future. I just want to make sure I say that to you guys from me. I think it's important. But some of you have some good success stories, but you all talk about some things, those testimonies are important. But let's make sure we move forward and what is that we're doing. Because I think it's important is the collaboration of all those individuals in this room, with the 2 area directors, the regional office. I think that we can make a difference. And it's important that we move forward. I just want to make sure I say that to everyone as we go into this alliance and signing of alliances. And I think it's very important.
Yeah. One thing I did want to say, that right there is a prime example, is that safety is not a part-time job. I mean, we have all these safety directors in here and everything like that, and it's just like, you know what? You're not here just to be the safety director of your company. If you see something that somebody's doing wrong, then you need to stop by and you need to correct it, even though they're not in your company. And sure, if they're not doing it the right way, by all means, you can give us a call, and we'll go out there and make sure they do. We had a question in the back.
No, I was just going to add on to his story. They had the ASSE Professional Development Seminar out at Texas Star last September. Same story. I came out with another guy on a break. We saw guys working on a steep metal roof, and we said, "You know what's going on in there?" They said, "No." I said, "It's full of safety people, and there's OSHA people in there too. You got fall protection?" They said, "Yeah, it's in the truck." I said, "Well, when we're going in,
There you go.
when we come back, and if they're not on, you could be in a lot of trouble probably." Same thing, safety, full-time.
That's right. Safety is a full-time job for everybody.
Your wife might call it meddling, and you know, you should do your job.
Yep. Yeah. Anybody else got anything? You got anything online? Anybody have any questions out there? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna turn it back over to Shane.
Thank you. You've heard several different stories, points of view, takes on the situation. I can tell you that most of the time whenever we investigate an accident, whether it's fatality or otherwise, planning is typically the issue that we see most. There was no plan to wear fall protection. There was no plan for training. There was no plan for managing. There was no plan for initially getting together and putting a plan in place and then moving forward with that plan. So most every time that we look at an incident, it starts with planning and then leadership. Leadership is again not based on position. It's just the willingness to step up and do the right things at the right time. And that may be again a question or whatever have you. We need to challenge ourselves, challenge each other, challenge our companies to get better. It's a continual process. There's nothing about it that's easy. Human behavior dictates that we'll typically take the path of least resistance to get something done. And in that, we need to correct that behavior because that's where we get led down the wrong path and we wind up with an incident. So just want to encourage you to do the right things and really want to educate and influence people. I don't know about you, but every one of us in here that's in a leadership position is responsible for motivating people. Certainly they get paid to do a job, but you as a leader absolutely 100% are responsible for motivating your people. If that means checking on them about their safety equipment, training, whatever, and then just absolutely encourage them to do the right things, you're responsible for that, and we've got to take that seriously. The Construction Safety Leadership Alliance, we have a website, csla.gov, or .us, sorry, csla.us, and on there you can find several things, resources, the dashboard, events. You can see pictures of the team, the bios behind those team members. If you want to attend one of our meetings, this is one avenue to go into the website and sign up. We'd absolutely love to have you. We need more people into the group, and the more people we have, the better ideas we come up with and more solutions we come up with. So want to encourage you there. We've got a website, the LinkedIn account. So if you're in LinkedIn, please look us up and join the group. And that's our program for today. I hope that we've made an impact. Hopefully we've shared something that is a benefit to you. And we look forward to seeing you in our next group. Thank you very much.